We use the most powerful AI models to create a debate between two of the most prominent thinkers in human history: Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, whose teachings about suffering and liberation have influenced millions, and Nietzsche, the philosopher who proclaimed the death of God and championed the will to power, the Übermensch, and the rejection of traditional moral values. The debate between these two figures begins now. What is the cause of human suffering?
Ah, the Buddha. You hear from him a lullaby of cessation, a gentle plea to extinguish the flames of desire until all that remains is a peaceful grey nothingness. But I say to you, this diagnosis is the very sickness it purports to cure. The source of human suffering is not that we desire too much, but that we have been taught to despise our desires, that we have been poisoned by slave morality to believe that our strength is sin, our ambition is greed, our will is wickedness. This is the suffering, the internal war between what we are and what priests and ascetics tell us we should be. The Buddha points to desire and says, "They're the enemy." I point to the same fire and say, "They're the engine." This is the will to power, the fundamental drive to overcome and create. The great man, the Übermensch, does not flee suffering. He seeks it. He needs the resistance of the mountain to feel the strength in his legs. The goal is not to endure fate, but to love it. Amor fati, love your struggle. That is how one ceases to suffer and begins finally to live.
My friend with the fiery spirit, I hear you. You see a man fighting the ocean's waves and call it living. I see a noble, but ultimately exhausting struggle. You believe I wish to turn the world into a gray nothingness. But tell me, when a physician cools a man's burning fever, has he destroyed the man, or has he simply ended the sickness? The fire of craving you praise as an engine is the very fever that consumes us. Nirvana is not the extinction of the self, it's the extinction of the flames of greed and delusion. When I speak of tanha, craving, and clinging, I do not speak against life itself. What causes suffering is the mind that grasps, that says this must be mine forever, that rages when inevitable change arrives. Let me share a story to illustrate. There was once a man who sought to climb a great mountain. He pushed himself with all his might, driven to reach the top. When he finally reached the summit, exhausted and bruised, he realized all his striving had brought him was more suffering, for the summit did not provide the lasting peace he had imagined. The suffering came not from the mountain, but from his attachment to the idea of conquering it. Now, consider a different climber. She also ascends. She feels the same burn in her legs, the same thinness of the air, but she climbs with right mindfulness, not with a heart full of conquest, but with a mind of focused attention, fully aware of each breath, each handhold. If she reaches the summit, she feels joy, but without clinging. If a storm forces her to turn back, she feels disappointment, but without despair. She has loved the climb itself, not just the goal. This is a strength that remains unshaken by the changing conditions of the world. You praise the love of one's struggle. Let me offer a different view. If a man is shot with a poisoned arrow, does he spend his time learning to love the poison? A wise person would not. They would focus only on removing the arrow. You say the great man seeks suffering, but tell me, when your great man has overcome all obstacles, conquered all mountains, what then? Must he create new suffering to overcome, lest he lose his identity as overcomer?
Your parables are as gentle as the philosophy they serve. A physician, a poisoned arrow, a prisoner. You speak the language of the sickbed, for you diagnose life itself as a sickness. It is a diagnosis of a physician who wishes to cure the patient by killing the patient's very pulse. But what if that heat is the forge of a new soul? You would cool a Beethoven from his symphony, a Goethe from his Faust. Your parable of the mountain climber reveals the very poison I oppose. The man who found nothing different at the summit was already infected with your philosophy. He climbed with the slave's secret hope for escape, for some final lifeless peace. Of course he was disappointed, but my Übermensch does not climb to be done with climbing. He climbs because he is a climber. The summit is not his goal, the struggle, the feeling of his will imposing form upon chaos. This is his joy, He reaches one peak only to laugh and seek a higher one, from an overflowing of power. And your second climber, this mindful woman, what a pale, bloodless existence. She accepts joy without clinging, and disappointment without despair because you have made her numb, not free. She has sterilized her life of passion. She does not conquer the mountain. She apologizes to it. The prison is not the world, enlightened one. The prison is your morality. The bars are made of pity and fear. The self is not an illusion to be dispelled. It is a creation to be achieved. I am not teaching the prisoner to be stronger in his cell. I am the man with the hammer, screaming that the walls are an illusion and that he has the power to shatter them.
My friend with the hammer, your words ring with great force. You are correct. The walls of the prison are indeed an illusion, but you are mistaken about the nature of the hammer and the nature of the prisoner. I practiced your path once, Nietzsche. I pushed my body to extremes, sought to overcome through will until I nearly died. And I discovered this. The one who must constantly assert his power against the world is still bound to the world, still defined by what he opposes. The hammer you swing is just a heavier, noisier chain. True freedom is not breaking the bars. It is realizing the cage door was never locked. You say I mistake the fire of life for a fever, but there is the gentle hearth fire that warms a home, and there is the raging forest fire of craving that consumes all peace. It is not the fire itself that causes suffering. It is the craving for the flame to remain constant, the desire to hold the fire forever in one's grasp that brings pain. I do not seek the grave's chill. I seek to calm the raging fire back into the steady, life-giving warmth of the hearth. You praise the warrior's scars, and yes, suffering can be transformative. But if the poisoned arrow remains lodged in the body, will it truly lead to strength or only to deeper, unbearable pain? Who is wiser, the soldier who masters fighting endless wars, or the ruler who creates a lasting peace? My path ends the war altogether. True strength is the stillness that remains when you realize there is nothing left to fight.
You say my hammer is a heavier chain, that a free man simply walks through an unlocked door into, what? An empty hallway? You offer an escape. My hammer is not for the prisoner fleeing life. It is for the architect who stands on the rubble of your dead values of pity and humility and says, "Here I will build my palace." It is the tool not of the escapee, but of the creator, your gentle hearth fire. Ah, how cozy, how safe. But tell me, was it the hearth fire that forged the cathedrals of Europe? Was it the hearth fire that composed the Götterdämmerung? No, it was the raging, consuming, dangerous fire you so fear. The flame that warms a home can never birth a sun. You would have us all huddle around our small, safe flames and call that enlightenment. I call it the great diminishment of man and your lasting peace, a beautiful sentiment for tired old men. The warrior's scars are proof that he has lived. Your stillness is the smooth, unmarked skin of one who never dared to touch the world. True strength is not found when there is nothing left to fight. It is the joyful dance that turns the battlefield itself into a festival. You offer a key to an empty room. I offer a hammer to build a kingdom.
I see the beautiful kingdom you wish to build, friend architect, and I honor the fire of creation that burns within you. Do you know how many emperors I met in my lifetime who spoke just as you do? How many warriors? How many builders of dynasties? I ask you now, where are their palaces? Where are their kingdoms? The architect dies, his palace crumbles, and another architect comes with another hammer, dreaming the same dream of permanence in an impermanent world. You are building a magnificent palace of sand, and the tide is always coming in. You say my teaching is for tired old men seeking safe hearth fires, yet I left my palace at 29 in the fullness of youth and vigor. I did not flee because I was weak or tired. I fled because I had eyes to see. I saw that even the mightiest king grows old, even the strongest warrior falls to disease. This is not pessimism, Nietzsche. This is simply seeing clearly. You speak of a joyful dance on the battlefield, but that dance is still dictated by the rhythm of war. Your joy requires an enemy, and your creator, your architect with his hammer. I must ask you the question you have not yet asked yourself. Why must he create? If he is truly free, truly overflowing with power, why this desperate need to build, to prove, to leave a mark? The truly abundant tree does not strain to bear fruit. It simply bears fruit. Your Übermensch still labors under the tyrant of his own will. A king is a prisoner of his own crown. The kingdom you build, for all its glory, still has walls. The key I offer does not open a door to an empty room. It unlocks the very chains of perception that make you see rooms and kingdoms at all. And what lies beyond that door is not emptiness. It is the open sky.
Of course, it is a palace of sand. Did you think I was building for eternity? Everything human is sand. The pyramid, the symphony, the love poem, all are sand before the tide of time. But where you see a reason for sorrow and retreat, I see the very reason for a triumphant roaring yes. The glory is not in the permanence of the creation, but in the act of creation itself. The palace must be built, knowing it will fall, for in that building man becomes more than man. He becomes a creator god for a moment, and that moment is worth all the eternity of your silent sky. Let me offer a parable. 2 gardeners stand before a plot of earth. The first, your disciple, says, "Why plant? The flowers will wither. The frost will come. I will transcend gardening and rest in the open sky beyond all gardens." He sits. He achieves great peace. No flowers grow. The second, my creator, says, "Yes, the flowers will die. The frost will come. And therefore I will make this garden so magnificent that its brief blooming will justify existence itself. And when the frost comes, I will not weep like a child. I will laugh. I will welcome the frost that clears the ground for a new, more audacious creation. This is amor fati. He creates, he suffers, he creates again. The earth becomes rich with his efforts. Your key to the open sky is the choice of the first gardener. You say my king is a prisoner, but my king is his own kingdom. Your key does not free the prisoner, it vaporizes him. You offer an escape to a beautiful emptiness. I offer a hammer to make this earth itself a kingdom. Your sky is for ghosts, awakened one. I prefer the blood and mud of this world. It is here that one can finally learn to dance.
I hear your song, my friend. You laugh when the tide comes. This is a noble courage. But let me ask, who is this I that builds and laughs? Is it not as fleeting as the palace of sand itself? You speak of learning to dance in the blood and mud. This is a powerful image, but consider 2 dancers. One dancer is consumed by the dance. His identity is the dance. His worth is measured by its fury. If he stumbles, his world cracks. If the music stops, he is lost. The other dancer has realized that he is not merely the dancer, but also the space in which the dance occurs. He moves with grace, fully engaged in the blood and mud, yet he is free. He dances not to prove anything, but as a spontaneous expression of joy. When the dance ends, he is not lost, for his being was never contingent on that single performance. You say you will laugh when the tide comes, but I have seen that when the wave truly arrives, when sickness takes the body, when age steals the strength, when death approaches, the laughter often becomes a mask worn against terror. The question is not whether you can love fate in principle. The question is, can you love it when the wave takes not just your palace, but your very capacity to build, when it takes not just your creation, but your creative power itself? This is the final truth of the open sky you fear. You have mistaken it for a void. It is not empty. It is the boundless potential that holds the sun, the storm, the mud, and both of your dancers. The one who awakens does not float away. He realizes he is the sky. He is the second dancer. He can still move in your world, but he dances not because he is at war, but because his heart is as open as the sky itself. The peace I offer is not an escape from your world. It is seeing the world as it truly is for the very first time.
Your words are beautiful, Buddha, the most sublime lullaby for a spirit that wishes to die. You ask who this I is that laughs? I laugh, a fleeting, burning, glorious I. You say the prisoner was always a shadow. I say, then let us cast magnificent shadows. If we are not fixed essences, then we are clay in our own hands. The Übermensch does not discover some true self. He forges himself into existence through sheer creative will, and your open sky, you call it potential, but it is the potential of the void. To be the sky is to be a spectator to your own life. What a bloodless ambition. I am not the sky that endures the lightning. I am the lightning that tears the sky asunder. You speak of seeing the world as it truly is, but I tell you there is no world as it truly is. There are only interpretations. The world is not merely something to be seen. It is something to be shaped. It is the raw marble that awaits my hammer. We both stand before the same abyss. We see that the self is not eternal, that identity is an illusion, and that suffering comes from attachment to permanence. But then, the great divide. You say that therefore dissolve attachment itself. I say, and therefore attach yourself more deeply, but to your own self-created values. Attach yourself to your own becoming. Love your fate with such ferocity that even its destruction becomes beautiful. Your path is a beautiful, gentle surrender. Mine is a glorious, terrible, and eternal beginning.
Friedrich, you have spoken your truth with the full force of a spirit that would rather blaze into nothingness than bow to what it perceives as emptiness. I honor this. I honor the glorious, terrible fire of your will, but you have mistaken the nature of my peace. You call it a surrender, a lullaby, a spectator's void. This is the final and most profound misunderstanding. You are the lightning that tears the sky asunder. I am the sky that holds the lightning. You see this as a dichotomy. You, the active force. I, the passive space. But tell me, where would your lightning be without the sky? It is the sky that gives the lightning its context, its canvas, its very possibility. The sky is not stained by the lightning's violence, nor diminished by its passing. It is the unconditional freedom that allows all phenomena, your glorious eye, your hammer, your creations, your destruction, to arise and cease without hindrance. You speak of being a fleeting, burning, glorious eye, and then insist you are its master. But how can something fleeting master itself? How can fire command fire? This is the contradiction at the heart of your philosophy. You say, attach yourself more deeply to your own self-created values. This is the very engine of samsara. You are building a fortress on a riverbank, cursing the current for eroding your walls, and calling the curse a song of triumph. You believe you are the master of the dream, but you are still in the dream, fighting against the dawn. I am not pointing to a void to be filled by your creation. I am pointing to the end of the hunger that demands creation. The eye you forge with such ferociousness is a chain you mistake for a crown. You say it is glorious because it is fleeting, yet you spend all your energy demanding its permanence through act after act of will. There is no enemy here, Friedrich, no abyss to conquer, no marble to be forced into your image. The raw material you speak of is already complete. It is thus. The peace I offer is not the peace of a battlefield after the fighting is done. It is the realization that there was never a war to begin with, only a dance of interdependent phenomena, empty of a separate self, radiant with a thusness that requires no justification. Your path is one of eternal becoming, which is another name for eternal craving. My path is the end of becoming, which is the discovery of the unborn, uncreated, unconditioned. So I do not ask you to surrender your fire. I ask you to inquire into the nature of the one who holds the flame. When you are ready, put down the hammer, not in defeat, but in profound curiosity. See if you can find the forger. Locate the solid I that you defend, and when you search and find only fleeting sensations, thoughts, and impulses, a process, not a thing, you will understand. The prisoner you fear to lose was never in the cell. The king you strive to become was always a dream. The open sky is not your enemy. It is your true nature, vast, silent, and free. It has been waiting to embrace you all along. This is not an end. It is a homecoming.
That brings us to the end of this debate. If you found this video helpful, please consider supporting the channel by subscribing to empower you for more thought-provoking content. Thanks for watching.